Hello, I think we're live, but I'm not sure.
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, excellent, excellent. Hello everybody. I hope you can hear us. We have your comments in the chat, so in case you can see the picture but you can't hear us, please do tell us. And this is both scary and exciting. This is our first episode ever, so we are both happy and very afraid.
true.
So, yeah, I think it's gonna be great. We're gonna have some fun. And basically, we're gonna, get some questions sorted out related to business systems, software, and anything else that comes to mind. So, hi to everybody who might be watching us. Hope you can, write in the chat, say hello so we can also see you. In the meantime, I just want to say welcome to the very first episode of Platforms and Processes, the live show where we talk about the systems behind successful service businesses. I'm Laura Plantak. I'm founder and CEO of Proprium. We are a digital transformation agency helping growing companies replace chaos with clear processes, smart platforms, and powerful automations. And after implementing systems for more than 400 plus businesses across 25 plus industries, it's one thing that we always keep repeating is that tools don't fix businesses, processes do. And then when those two finally work together, everything basically changes. And this is why this show exists. We want to engage with our audience, and every week through this show and our newsletter, break down real life workflows, software stacks, and behind the scenes decisions that actually move businesses forward without buzzwords, fluff, and without pretending that one tool fits everyone. I think that's the most crucial aspect to both of us. And thankfully, I'm not doing this alone. I'm joined by Judita, our operations and systems brain at Proprium, the person who turns messy ideas into clean workflows and keeps our projects running like clockwork. So, Judita, if you want to say a few words, please do.
Of course. Hi, everyone. Hi again. My name is Judita, and I am a growth and client operations consultant here at Proprium. So nice to meet you all.
Excellent. So, together, we'll guide you through the platforms, the processes, and the practical decisions to help your business scale. So, for our first episode, we chose the topic related to how to choose your business software, because that's something that we get daily. We get emails, we get forms filled out on our website, we get messages with, do I choose this tool or that tool? What do I do? And then when we sit down with our clients on the first call and in the first few calls, it's always, is this a better tool than the other tool, etc., etc. So we prepared a little presentation, and we're gonna switch immediately to that. And while this is, going live, feel free to ask any question at any time. We would love to hear your thoughts. So, when it comes to choosing the right tools for your business, it's a lot. When you start, googling what's the best tool, when you start researching, and all of those uh, ads start popping on you, when you start, seeing ClickUp, Trello, Asana in your dreams, basically, and you're just trying to solve for your project management platform. You're just trying to solve for something that will give you some time back. It's very crucial to take a step back and don't fall into a trap where you actually choose something before you test it out, talk to somebody, and basically figure out what you want to solve with the software. Because usually what we see is that clients actually jump into software that somebody else has or somebody else recommended to them, and then few months later we have an expensive problem that we kind of fix, and we try to figure out where they actually went wrong with that decision, based on that. So Judita, what do you think about this situation when usually we have conversations with clients? Yeah.
Yeah, I think what usually happens is that clients just pick a random software that either they see someone else use or someone recommends them the software, and they see perhaps a demo and they see, oh, this software has everything, automations, integrations, and they just take it. And what happens usually is that after a few months, nobody uses it, and it's not the software's fault. It's basically what happens is that they don't really understand their processes. What they should actually first do is, a discovery where they go through their daily workflow and what they usually do. And once they have all of that documented, then it's very easy to actually pick the right tools.
I fully agree. And that's why today's focus is those first few steps. So, why do most tool selections actually fail? It's exactly what you described. So, what do we consider, preparing for it? How do you decide what you need? What do you usually suggest to people, Judita?
Well, usually I would say to them, you should just, take a pen and a paper, or, open a Word document and just write everything that you usually do in your day, and do that for perhaps 2 weeks. And at the end, the base that usually use to find the right software. The thing is, you should actually find a software that works for you. You shouldn't be the one to mold your processes and your work, fits the software. It should be the other way around. So that's my take on it. And yours, Laura?
So I fully agree with what you said, and you said something very interesting. You said mold your processes on software. So I've seen that with like CRMs, especially. So every CRM has its own, every CRM system, customer relationship management system has its own like verbiage. And we've been through that this week even, so we can go on that
Exactly.
example. Um, so when you test them out, when you go through them, when you're trying to figure out what's the best way for the client's issues and the client's process to kind of fit into the software that we're demoing at that moment or checking, the verbiage like prospect and lead and opportunity and deal in some softwares is used in one way, in some it's completely other way, and then somewhere it's a custom object, somewhere it's a custom record, somewhere it's a field, somewhere it's a column. So you're already kind of lost on the verbiage of stuff. So that's the first thing. Then you might want to import something from Excel or spreadsheet or some other document. And I think that Judita, you kind of went through that hell the last 2 days.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. The past weeks,
what happens when you don't have prepared the import? Like, what did
it's been
you?
hectic. If you don't have the fields mapped, it is a struggle, because I think the biggest thing is you will import and create so many duplicates, and it will be a mess to clean that later on. So I think that's the biggest issue, in my opinion.
And that there's also this possibility that the software you chose might not have the developed tool for
Yes,
bulk
that as well.
duplication. So those are tiny details that you don't see when you look at the like pricing list, and those are the 3-tiered plans, and they have availability. They're able to integrate with this and that and do this and that. But one thing I always say to people is that's your perception of this and that feature. Doesn't mean that that's really how it is. And the biggest this and that feature that I see is integration with email. Does it integrate really with your email address, or does it just create inbox that is being sent with their own domain, basically there? Or do you have to pay for a higher plan to integrate your inbox? For example, are there any limits? Do they have native integrations? Do they have native automations? Do you need to use Zapier or Make? There are so many tiny details that you have to ask, and it can say, we have email integration, but then it's not that type of email integration you're looking for. So these are the things, the nuances, that when you choose a software and somebody has a really nice conversation with you, you purchase it for your company, or you go on a trial or a demo, and then 6 months later real life happens and you have to add all of those nuances, and then things start falling apart. The biggest issue here is you're not purchasing something that somebody made custom for you. So they had to make it for millions of other companies. So they have to have features that fit most people. They can't be fully customized. So when you're looking at no code software, you're already looking at some sort of capabilities that are not fully there. They can be 95% there, which is amazing, but that 5% is make it or break it for you if your use case is not fitting into it. I've seen that with, like, for example, specialized plumbing software. So different types of plumbing companies using specialized, and I'm not gonna name software, that's not the goal. But there were three different softwares just specialized for the plumbing industry. And the issue was that the client that started using it, even though it was made for them, there were so many fields and there were so many things missing, and they couldn't do anything because it wasn't custom enough. So that's why we always, let's say, default to relational databases, because they give you the most, I would say, flexibility, ability to kind of mold them by yourself, etc. And then we have the discovery approach, just like you mentioned really well in the beginning, because the thing with this is that you have to know what you're actually solving for before you start solving it, but you don't have to know fully. This sounds ridiculous, so let me unpack it a little bit. So I need to know that I need a CRM through which I can make phone calls, through which I can send text messages. Maybe I want to record calls. Maybe I want some sort of email templates. I want to send email. Maybe I want to send email with 5 different email addresses, not just one. Maybe I want my team member to be able to send as me. Maybe I want lists. Maybe I want that CRM to already have some marketing tool integrated, so I don't have to purchase a newsletter, type of software next to that. Or it can integrate with any other software that does that, etc., etc. So I don't need to know how it works. I need to know what I want as the goal after, right? And then basically we go backwards from that. So if you have those needs, then we narrow down the list, either us or you, when you're doing this for yourself, and then you start to test them out. So you basically start either going to use their free versions, or you start to go to demo meetings with sales representatives from that software, or you find a consultant like us, unsolicited pitch here. So but yeah, basically you just start testing it out, you start using it, and then you see if you like it. So at that point in time, you already know what you want, but you now have few options, and you know where you want to get to. So this is where you start looking at YouTube videos, you start looking at tutorials, you start looking for help. And then this is the moment where you decide if you do it in-house or you go with somebody else, right? So those are all the moments that we all kind of go through when we're choosing something. And what I really don't like is when somebody says, and I really hate this advice, honestly, when somebody says, well, just pick something and stick with it. What do you think about that?
Yeah. It's a crazy phrase, and I wouldn't agree, because why is it so important to have your processes, mapped out? Because today you're using one software and it might be great, but in a few years you might be like, okay, I want to try something else. And then you're like, how can we transfer that from one place to another? And that is why that discovery is so important. Times don't realize how a big mistake it can be to skip that phase when trying to look for the right software. So yeah.
So this is I agree with you fully. This is why I think that's not a good advice, because when you start your company and you're a solopreneur, you're a freelancer, you don't need all of this fancy stuff, right? So you just need to test your processes for a year, I would say. You need to do sales, you need to get clients, you need to keep clients. And then when you have all of that, you can start deciding, okay, this is what I do that is repetitive. This is what I would love to automate. This is what I would love to, do in my next year of business, etc., etc. So I always say to everybody, if you just started your business, you do not need project management, relational database, CRM, anything like that. It's just productive procrastination, if anything. When you start your business, you just need your phone, whether it's a Zoom call or a normal phone call, etc. Start talking to clients, start communicating with clients, start doing projects, and then see which patterns appear, right? Like, do you do more of these types of projects or more of those types of projects, and what is repetitive there? Do you need to hire people? Do you need to find some collaborators? Do you need to, find a software after that point? But up until that point, Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, Excel or Google spreadsheet for everything, and then later on start layering there. And if you're an established business and you just started growing, you started hiring, you started, needing more team members basically, and everything's in your head, that's the moment when you need to start choosing software with your team, because they need to be able to get, things that you want them to do outside of your mind and in their hands, I would say. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to add something to that.
No, I don't. I think you covered pretty much everything on that topic.
Good,
I,
good.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think we can move to the next slide.
Okay. Let's move to
Let's
the
see
next
what
slide.
do we have.
The biggest mistake. So, do you
Yeah.
want to tell us a little bit
So,
about that?
so what do you think? I think it really is the biggest mistake. We see over and over again companies choose tools before understanding their processes. It happens all the time. Someone sees, like we already said, an impressive demo, beautiful interface, automations, AI features, dashboards, integrations, everything. And what they usually think is, oh, this is exactly what we need. And they sign a contract, get excited, start implementation, and 6 months later, what happens? Maybe 30% of features is actually being used, and the team is frustrated. Thousands of dollars are being basically wasted on licenses for the software that basically, it's there, but nobody uses it. And I think that is really, really, you know, a big issue, because it's not even the fault, software's fault. It's basically you didn't first map everything out and see, okay, we need this, this, and this, and then find the software that, gives you that. It's just picking whatever, and then, maybe it will work. And it usually doesn't.
And it's the human factor. If I spend $200,000 on a software for our team of 50 plus people, I don't want to say I did a mistake, right? It's
Yeah,
bad.
it's hard
Um,
to admit to
it's
yourself.
really hard, especially if you're running a department, and you're not a business owner. So I think it's also an ability to say, we learned a lot from this. Let's do something else, because I do think at the end of the day, the goal is to have your own custom software, when you
Exactly.
are big enough as a company. But until then, you have to learn what you're doing. You have to experiment with why your business is successful. You have to iterate, and then, have all the systems and processes there, and then be able to say, well, this is not what we need for us, right? So I think that that's a huge thing that people kind of, the human factor. And then you have also the change management, the human factor in change management, because sometimes software might be right, but part of the team is resistant to that. So this is why when you're doing this, there are so many aspects there. It's not just, we're going to have a CRM from now on and it's going to be amazing. It really has to be, where is my team at? Are they ready for this change? Like, can we do this in house? Do we have enough capacity? If we're entering the story of the year with, let's start with, this CRM or this project management tool, and everybody's already over capacity, they're just going to be very unhappy at work, and they're just going to burn out. And this is not just, I think, I don't know how to explain better, but this is not just, let's add the software. You have to learn it, you have to test it, you have to apply everything that you have so far in your company. The stress test, can it take that? What
Yeah.
happens if somebody deletes something? What happens if we have to use those, the other software that we had previously to that, what if we have to use that simultaneously, can everybody make that transition as fast as possible, etc. So what I always say is, when you see these key challenges, also think about when is your business the slowest. It's not just about let's just do that. I want to go to the next slide, if that's okay with you,
Yeah, sure.
because on the next slide we have exactly the discovery phase that you talked about, and you can repeat it if it's okay with you for people who just
No,
joined
it's
us.
fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, the thing is, usually people just skip that. They don't even know what that is. And the discovery phase is basically, it's a structured process where either us or you yourself, you work closely. If we were to work with a client, we usually work with a client closely and their team to basically deeply understand how their business actually operates. Not how you think it operates, but how the work usually gets done. And how does that usually look like is we have these meetings with their teams, either sales team or project management team, and then we have things that we ask them what they usually do, what do they usually do in their usual day-to-day work. How does their day usually go like and look like. And yeah, it's basically that, I think. What do you usually think about discovery phase, and how does that usually look like for you?
I think that people think that this needs to be very extremely complicated.
Complex.
Complex. Uh,
I think
that
that we're like
I just blanked. I was like, do I use
same.
complicated
That's
or
that
right?
that same for me. I was like
At one, I
I
just
wanted
started
to say
mixing.
something, and then I was like, I don't know what I wanted to say.
This is exactly the Croatian English translation going in my head, like
Yeah.
ping ponging. But yeah, what I was gonna say is it doesn't have to be complicated. So it gets complicated on a scale of number of people, number of processes, number of systems. But when you're a solopreneur, freelancer, when you have a small team, it's not complicated at all. It's just people don't usually do this naturally. They just are like, I need project management. They open ClickUp, they open Asana, they open Trello, and they just start entering tasks, and then something doesn't work because it's a learning curve. So each of those tools have their audience, each of those tools are good. I'm not saying one is better than the other or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you don't do this prior to that, you're not gonna know until you hit like month 2 or 3 of using it, 5, 6, etc. And then it's gonna be, well, it can't do recurring tasks, or it can't connect to Outlook calendar, or it's just a one-way sync with this software for time tracking, etc., etc., right? So that's why this is crucial. And then I'm going to go to the next slide. After that discovery phase, you basically have this like example. So let's say we did that discovery phase. So we're a small business, we are a marketing agency. It's 3 of us, right? We have collaborators, but at the end of the day, it's 3 of us. If we were writing the tasks just like Judita said, we would have come, in let's say 2 weeks, to an example of a mapped process, and we chose the onboarding of a new client for that. So basically, what would happen is that we would know that we have 4 stages here. We have sales and negotiation, we have client work, and then we have communication and training, and then monitoring and evaluation. So in phase 1, in sales and negotiation, we would basically figure out by writing it down that we usually use an offer creation using Word or Google Docs. So that's our process. When somebody needs a proposal, quote, estimate, anything from us, we hop onto those areas of our cloud, and then we just like duplicate it and we start from scratch. In some instances, and this can happen depending on how you usually work with clients, if it's locally, sometimes people even print out an offer or a contract for people to physically sign, and then return it signed. And then what we also see in this basic process that the person was writing down for our example, that then those signed contracts are stored in local folders and you're stuck with paperwork for when you need to find something, look through something, etc., etc. And then that person was, let's say, writing down what they do in client work phase. And then what's figured out here is that documentation is created by copying a previous document that we mentioned. Communication starts on email, WhatsApp, Slack. It's in 5 different channels. It can get lost. You don't know what was the last thing you said to the client, etc. And then tasks are assigned verbally to collaborators or team members, which can bring a huge either conflict, misunderstanding, tasks not being done, people being, completely puzzled what to do next and all of that. And then in our example, the person inside of communication and training phase wrote down that instructions and materials are sent via email, the client submits questions by email and responses are not centralized, and the overall collaboration activity and project plans are not visible to the client. So that started becoming a huge problem, which needs to be solved. And then for monitoring and evaluation, notes are kept in a planner or on paper, surveys, links, and recordings are sent via email, and there is no system for analysis, reporting, or time and profitability tracking. So what we can immediately see, if somebody came to us and said, those are the things I've realized in the last 2 weeks by writing them down, what I would first see is that you can't delegate. There is no system for you or a possibility of system to say, please create your new contract based on this template, or this is how we onboard a client, this is where the client receives their first message, this is where they receive the invoice, the contract, and everything there. And then also I would be very worried to know what is your profitability on the project, because this can keep you from charging properly, and it can keep you from earning at all, and it can turn you into a situation where the whole project goes out of scope, things don't go as planned, collaborators don't do their job, and a client leaves you after. Doesn't have to be that horrible, it can just be that you do it successfully because you can multitask, and then you're just burn out, you know but in any sort of those situations, you literally are not helping yourself. So in order to get to a point where you have more time as a business owner, there has to be some sort of systems and processes in place, and this is what we need to evaluate before we get to the software part, because maybe you prefer to communicate via email and you want that to be a rule. Your agency wants to have email communication. So the software that you choose has to have email integration. Maybe you want some sort of, instant messaging type being integrated into the software you want to use, both for your tasks and both for your communication. Really depends on what you do. And here we already see that this is something you have to choose, not look around and see these 10 softwares have the highest grade on G2, and they are things that we want to try. No, do they have those things that you need with the things you're doing now is the crucial question. Because if we get into that in that way, then we get features we don't actually use and we pay for them. If we get into it prepared like this, then we could also figure out that, for example, if we are paying for Google Workspace, we have e-signature already there. We don't need DocuSign in that moment, etc. What do you think, Judita?
Yeah, when I look at this example or any other, basically, I would, just ask myself when I see this particular one, I would, what tool would actually fix this? Would it be like a CRM? Like maybe it would help with contract management because things are not centralized, like you've said. But it doesn't solve, contract signing issue, a document preparation delays. I think that thing is very time consuming. And then would maybe a project management tool solve this? Maybe some of it would, but you see the problem we have. Do we need a CRM? Do we need a project management tool? Do we need something else entirely? And then you end up basically having these 5 or 6 tools that you use, and instead of maybe 3, because you didn't map your processes. And I think that's critical. I think we really cannot choose the right tool or tools maybe before we understand the actual workflow we are trying to support, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Fully. And I think what layers on top of what you said is also permissions. How many people need to use this? Does the sales team need to use the same software the marketing team does? Are they, in the same place? Do project managers need something else inside of your company? Where do you actually see the overview of your business? Like where's your dashboard as a business owner?
Yes. How
So
granular we need to go.
Exactly. And then basically, if we're adding clients, if we are adding collaborators, where do we kind of keep them from seeing the confidential data they shouldn't be seeing? So it's not just about we need this or that, or I heard my friend who has the same agency uses this or that. That's all great. But basically, the issue is, what do we need to solve for? And it doesn't matter if it's three softwares that do it together and they speak to each other, or it's one or two or 10.
Exactly.
Depends on your use case, right? So it's also about making the thing communicate and making everybody use it and keeping it simple. So basically impossible stuff.
Yes.
Mind breaking
Basically.
impossible stuff. But this is why this helps, because if you have this in front of you, and then basically you are able to see, well, these are the things we usually do. Cool, what do we want to automate? What do we want to remove? What are we doing just for the sake of doing, so because we don't have any other way of doing, so what can we fully remove, and all of that. And we have one comment. Let's
Oh,
respond to our viewer. So Judita, you can read the question if you want.
sure. Thank you again for the comments. Is there room for including IT and security staff into the discovery phase and beyond to address such pain points as data management and identity and access management, like using single sign-on with all of the tools? Laura,
So
what do you think?
this is a great question, and this is an enterprise grade need, I would say. So all of the softwares have that enterprise feature, but what we were kind of going towards was more the plans on the software that are not on that level. When you're on the enterprise level, the single sign-on is much simpler and much easier. And I see that it says LinkedIn user. It should read the name. I think it was Tom Schultz that's asked that question. And I want to say hi because he does cybersecurity. So that's why I know the question was asked. And I think it's a great question. And thank you, Tom, for asking it. I also want to add that including IT and security staff is crucial in the discovery. And it's a luxury if you have them. Usually businesses that we work with don't have them. Either they have one person that is a little bit more advanced with technology than the others in the team, or they have an outsourced IT team there. But when they do have IT and security staff, they have to be part of the conversation, because without them, we can't know what else is being used. We can't get access to things that we would need to get access to. And I think it's important to go adjacent to all the protocols the company has to do, especially if they have specialized needs. We've seen that with laws like GDPR, for example, where when you are actually choosing software, it's crucial where that software has its server. It's not just that I have as a company I can choose between this and that. I have to check few things before I am able to even make that decision. So it narrows it down even more. So it's a crucial conversation there. Thank you for the comment. Do you have anything to add, Judita?
No, like you've said, and I really think that it's important to include teams and people into discovery phase, people that will actually use the software, because their opinion is very important. What they do usually, where do they see repeated mistakes, what information do you wish you had access to, and how will that help you? And then we always usually ask them, what do you want, regardless of the, technical constraints, what do you want to see and how do you want, what would help you make your life easier, basically. But yeah, thank you again for the comment.
So I think this ties perfect into the next slide. Exactly just like you said. If we don't ask you that, then you have to ask yourself how to make a decision. Like, How am I currently managing client data? Do I really need a CRM? Like that's also a great question to ask. How do I communicate with clients, and would a centralized platform improve organization? That's also a great question, because sometimes the type of I would say needs your clients have might not go well with a centralized platform. Maybe they, for some reason, prefer just email, or they have other, preferences. So that's also very crucial there. Then how do I manage tasks and deadlines, and do I need a task tracking tool? I would always say write down stuff, even if it's just a Google Doc or if it's a Google spreadsheet, but keep it written, or even if it's just in your notebook. Basically, you're gonna forget things. So that's one. How do I send offers and contracts, and would automated signing be beneficial? Also very crucial to think about, especially if you have different laws in your country that you need to think of, and you are unable to use electronic signature in a way that certain softwares offer it. How do I educate clients, and do I need a resource sharing platform? How do I monitor client engagement, and do I need an evaluation and feedback system? So all of these are great to ask when you have your 2 week, what are we doing written down, and then you can see patterns between all of that. And then you can start to daydream a little bit and say, well, if we had a customer relationship management software, this is what I would want it to have. This is what would make my life easier. This is what it would be, cool to add to that, etc. How do you process this, Judita?
Well, same as you said, I think it's very important to ask these questions because, for example, the first one with the CRM, it doesn't ask which CRM is the best, but do you even need one? Maybe your problem isn't client data management basically at all. Maybe it's project management and so on. For the deadlines, of course, like you've said, we need to have something to write tasks and notes, because deadlines can be missed, of course, if we keep everything in our head. Basically, if we look at all of these questions, all of these questions basically start with, how am I currently doing this, and what's the actual problem I'm trying to solve? So only after, I think, answering these questions can we actually look into the tools. And I think, like I've said, and you've said as well, it's really important to do that during the discovery, and what's, I think, beautiful about this is once you've done this work and you have everything mapped out, I feel like the tool selection becomes remarkably, it's straightforward. I need this, and this. I don't need all of this. So I think asking these questions is crucial.
And then when you have answers to that, you have a list, and you can go on a call with a software representative, for example, for a demo. And you can ask certain questions and avoid just seeing something for the first time, or avoid hearing about things that do sound really cool and you want them, but you actually don't use them. So it's like buying a car. If I just, me who knows nothing about cars, so if I went
Same.
to the dealership, if you did tell me went to the
We would
dealership,
be lost.
it would be bad. We would be like, well, we need a car, and we're
um,
wondering, does it have like a sunroof? Can
I
we?
think the color would be my biggest
I
issue.
mean, it has to be pink.
Yeah.
It has to be pink, and the speakers have to be good, because we have this obsession with certain music, you and me.
Yeah.
So, right, we would just like look at those things, like, can I listen to my music while I'm driving? Is it comfortable to sit? Is the seat comfortable, and all of that? And I'm not even thinking about the tires. I'm not thinking about the engine. I'm not thinking
That's
about
not
anything.
important.
I would just like buy it and go, right? And then I would be 3 months in, I would be, wait, this is missing, that is missing, etc., etc. And I'm not proud of this, but that's how I bought a laptop when I was a student.
Why
I
am I not
went,
surprised?
I didn't know anything about computers at that point. I was so young. And my dad gave me this pocket money. He was like, you need it for university, just go. And I just remember this salesman. I don't know if he still remembers me, but it was so awkward. I entered the store. It was like laptops everywhere. And I said, I want a laptop, but do you have a red one? And then he just found this red Toshiba, and he was like, this is the only red laptop that they have. And I was like, sold.
I mean, you solved the problem.
I finished university with that laptop. I did a lot, and then later on I figured out the RAMs were not enough. This was bad. That was bad. So, I don't want you to have that experience with software, because that's exactly what you're going to sign up for, if that makes sense. But if you come to the store and you're buying a laptop and you're like, this, that, and nothing in between, you can easily find what you're looking for, because you understand the power behind it, and you understand what it can do for you. So I think that's also crucial, because I look at all the software demos, and we do a lot. I think we tested over 300 tools in the last few years. We go on a lot of calls, weekly, to test out software, and their job is to sell, and that's okay, because that is what they need to do. But they can't give you that comparison with other tools, because that person, it's their job to know their tool. It's not their job to know all of the other tools. So that's a huge issue. So when you're talking to anybody who is helping you, see the software that they know the best, that's great, but you have to ask them crucial questions, and then, test it out with everything else that you have. What do you think? Do you have anything to add there?
No, I think you covered everything with that red laptop. Yeah.
And a little bit over the planned
No, I
stories.
think I think it was the right choice. I mean, it got
Thank
you
you.
through your university, so
I mean, it was a lovely laptop. I still
yeah.
have pictures
Do you
of it.
still have it?
What? Sorry?
Do you still have it?
I do. It doesn't turn on. I don't have the charger, but just
Oh
it's
my
so pretty. I
god.
didn't want to throw it away. It's like it's near me, below
Okay,
the
you will
bed.
have to show us. If not
Yes,
now, the
I
next
will.
next time.
It's really to me, it's the prettiest laptop I ever had. I mean, I love my MacBook, but it's not Fred, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Conclusion. So process first, tool second, that's for sure. And I think that I keep repeating that in every post I make on
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
That's the
and I keep
point.
repeating that to everybody. Because what happens is, I'll give you one example, and Judita, you know this very well. In Proprium, even though we do implement those tools for others, sometimes we also switch if something appears that we want to switch and we want to use. But our switch takes how much? What's your average? What do you think?
It's very fast, actually. I think sometimes it's like even a few days. It's
Yep.
it's very fast because we have things mapped out and
Yeah.
we have everything prepared, and then we just, let's switch, let's try something new
Yeah.
because we think it will work better for us.
Yeah. And the team is kind of used to it. There's no
Yeah. They
long
just get
change.
like a message.
There were two in the last month, and I think it was flawless execution.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So we also want to put a little commercial, because we started a community. So I'll switch us to the commercial very briefly, and we'll go then back to our screens really soon. If you enjoy conversations like this, you'll love the Proprium Digital Network. It's a community where digital service founders get tools, templates, weekly insights, and behind the scenes guidance on building systems the right way. If you want to stop building systems alone and start building with support, join us at proprium.agency. Great. So you've seen our announcement for Proprium Digital Network. We can talk a little bit about that. So, we, for the past almost 8 years, it's going to be 8 in April, we've figured that the business owners that have this problem and have this issue usually don't have anybody to actually talk to, or to go through when they're implementing something, and they might not want an outsourced team for implementation either, because they're not on the level where they want somebody else to do it. They still want to do it themselves. And in talking to our clients throughout the last year, we figured out that digital business founders want a community of digital business founders who are going through the same thing, to talk about the software, to talk about anything that they need to choose, to talk about challenges that they might have, to ask questions when you want to ask questions to customer service rep, but you don't know how to form a question. That's also an issue, because you don't know what's working, but you don't know how to describe it, so you don't know how to get help. That's something that we've also noticed. So we started with our open waiting list for Proprium Digital Community. And we are hoping that you might, if you're interested, DM us on LinkedIn, comment on the live, and we'll give you some more information. So right now it's functioning as a waiting list. We have 15 people who want to be founding members, and we want to invite you if you also want to join and talk a little bit more about that. So we had to add that, and we're very excited about it. Do you have something to add, Judita?
No, please sign up. We would love to have you there.
Yeah,
And
you're gonna talk to us directly. It's not gonna be, it's not gonna be a community where you don't have access to us. It's literally gonna be basically a price of 1 hour consulting call with us. It's gonna be whole month price. So we think it's a great opportunity to work on that level with us. So this is where we're coming towards the end of our first live show. I
I still
think it
can't
was
believe
not
it.
that scary. What do you think, Judita?
I mean, it was a bit scary, but I think we did pretty good, for the first time.
We'll see. We'll see after our feedback comes from the team.
Exactly.
We'll see. But so far, I'm really happy with the questions that we received, and I'm really happy with the message that we gave you. So coming back to it, processes first, then choose tools. And
Yes.
we plan to do this every week, same time, Thursday. And hopefully, more and more join every week. And we hear your use cases. If you have real questions that you want to share, we would love to hear that. We can discuss them together. We might solve a challenge that you have on one of these lives. So feel free to either email us, message us, or just come to our live next week at the same time. And that's it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you.
Till the next time.
And with that, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.